Welcome, everybody.
Okay.
We have a little bit larger group than typical for some classes, so I might have to mute everyone periodically. We do have Nancy from who is a TA with me, and she'll be monitoring our meeting in case anybody's having any technical difficulties. Unfortunately, my microphones are really sensitive on computers, and so they tend to pick up a lot of noise. That might be something that interferes with the discussion. So, but if you have, and we'll stop periodically for questions so that we can handle them. So if you have a question, feel free to use chat. Feel free to use your reactions button. So wave me if you need to get my attention as well. I see some familiar faces already here that are logged in and some new faces too. So hopefully it's been a good day for most of you. It's still afternoon for me, but I know it's evening for a lot of other people, okay? So let me go ahead and get started, do some introductions, and we'll have a period of time we can, get kind of a sense of how much experience people have had, and then see what's in store for us for the rest of the hour. Okay. All right. So welcome to Zoom Virtual Backgrounds for Beginners. I'm Bob Cohen, your guide. Some of you have had me in a class before, and we'll have a time to get to know each other a little bit. I was born in Chicago, went to college on the West Coast, and tried to make technology easier. So Kathleen, did you have your hand up with a question, or you're just trying out the reactions?
No, I actually, although it doesn't really relate to this necessarily, the Microsoft Word 65 class that you taught that I was at on May 3rd, after you said you would send links for this 365 to things like the, I don't know, photo
Right.
and video, money, etc. And I didn't get those. So I was trying to find out, I didn't know how to contact and who to contact to get the list of the links.
Yeah, the notes weren't set up. I had sent a copy of the links to Marge and our support team, and she was supposed to resend it. If you'd send a link, send an email to help@getsetup.io, and I'll make a note, Kathleen, that you need them, because I saw your note in the comments and they weren't set up. So let me take care of that. Okay, thanks. No problem.
Thank you. Sorry to bother you. I just didn't realize.
No, I wanted to
wasn't
make
sure.
sure everybody got the links, and I thought they had gone out. So we'll get that fixed. Okay.
And I think I'm okay on backgrounds, but if not, I will catch your next class.
Okay. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Yeah, if anything ever goes wrong, you could always, all of you, so you understand, if you're missing something, if something, didn't happen right, if you're trying to get a recording, send an email to help@getsetup.io, and someone will get back to you. Okay.
Okay. All right.
But
Thank you so
I'll
much.
follow up. I'll follow up for you, Kathleen. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And sorry to be off topic, but I just, as I said, I didn't quite realize. Now I know, and next time I hope I will do that correctly.
Thanks for mentioning. Okay. No problem.
Okay. And by the way, for the new people, Bob gives great classes.
Thank you, Kathleen. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit today about virtual backgrounds for beginners. And as you know, Get Setup's a learning community. Some of you have probably been in classes before. Some of you have been in some of my classes before. So we are recording the class, so that if you want a copy of the recording or any help, as Kathleen asked about notes, send a message at help@getsetup.io. If you're joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to register for a class. It's free at getsetup.io. And even though we might mention products, we don't really get paid to promote anything. We're just providing information as part of our education. Okay. So let's take a look at our agenda. and then I'll get an idea of the type of things that we're going to be dealing with and ask you a few questions here. What we're going to talk about are the minimum hardware and software requirements, not to use Zoom, but to use the virtual background feature with Zoom. Zoom will work on a lot of things. It'll work on Chromebooks, it'll work on Android, it'll work on iPhones and iPads and Windows and Macs, but virtual backgrounds doesn't work on everything. And so there's a little bit of a requirement that you need to have in terms of your computer and other things. And I will tell you up front, so for those of you that have a Chromebook, the Zoom virtual backgrounds, technically, it does not work on Chromebooks. So that for anybody that has a Chromebook and is wondering how to use Zoom virtual backgrounds, it doesn't work. Okay, it's just not technically supported by Zoom. And we'll take a look at some things there to help you out a little bit too. We'll take a look at some steps. I'll show you some slides first on how to use the virtual background feature and get to it. And then we'll talk a little bit about what some differences are between using it on desktops, smartphones, and tablets. And then I'll walk you through a couple of steps in doing it as well. So I'm looking for my tablet here for a second here. So hold on just 1 second. I have to get my tablet in place. Okay, so I'm going to be joining the meeting from my tablet as well as my computer. So while I'm doing that, this is a good time to see if anybody has any questions about virtual backgrounds and what they're hoping to learn about them. So if you want to, unmute yourself or raise your hand, we'll help. We'll try and answer some questions for you at the beginning here. Anybody have anything they're hoping to get answered about virtual backgrounds? How many of you? I see Happy Spirit has a virtual background, but is there anybody that has tried using them and just was confused? Okay.
I tried to use it, but it was wavy and it was completely unstable. It was going over my face and everything.
Okay, so it was a quality issue with the quality of your virtual background. Is that right, Martha?
I guess.
I guess. Well, you don't know what to call it, but that's what we'll call it for now. Okay. All right. So I'm joining my meeting here. You'll actually see me twice in the meeting because I'm joining with my iPad here as well, so that I can demonstrate something when we get to using the iPad and using mobile devices. Okay. I'm going to rename myself. I'm trying to do 3 things at once here. So we'll get started here. Okay. So for those of you that don't know what a virtual background is, and you're wondering, gosh, well, why should I take this class, or what can Bob show me that I might not have known before? The virtual background is something that replaces what's behind you. Now I'm going to draw with my mouse, and my artistic skills are very limited, so you have to be patient with me, but I'm going to bring up something called the whiteboard to show you what goes on as best I can from when we have a virtual background. So here is Bob, for example, and I'm looking at the camera here, okay? And the camera on my phone or my tablet or my computer is right here, okay? And I might have some things in back of me. Let me try and get some good shapes here. They don't have built-in furniture. I wish they did. But let's say I've got a bookcase behind me, and let's say I've got a little table behind me of some sort, and I've got some flowers growing in a planter. They should be green, shouldn't they? Okay. And so, and I've got a pot. And so this is what's behind me. And the camera's taking in everything, okay? And the camera's connected to a computer, right? Okay, and I'll just draw a box here. This is, we'll call this my computer, okay? So what's going on with virtual backgrounds? What is this that's happening? Well, because your camera is looking at everything, it looks at you and it looks at what's behind you. It puts all of that in the picture, and that's what shows up in the video in your little window on Zoom, right? So, I mean, I can see what's behind some of you because it's your real background. And some people may have decided to hide their video by turning their video off with the stop video button on Zoom because they just don't want anybody seeing them or their background, right? Okay, so what virtual backgrounds does is it does something that's kind of like computer magic is the best way to explain it. You know, when we don't understand something, we can call it magic, right? So imagine there's a line right here behind you. Okay, so what the virtual background feature does is it is in the computer software with Zoom. And what it does is it says, okay, Bob, all this stuff that's behind you for real, we're going to replace that with a picture. So instead of people seeing what's you behind you in your background, my drawing skills are limited, right? But instead of it being this stuff, it's a picture of something else that's behind you, maybe a beach or a sunset or something else. And that's what your computer does for you with virtual backgrounds. It's magic when it works right. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about is how to make this special effect. And Teresa, you've got a virtual background. I have a virtual background, and some of you will probably get ahead of me because people really like to do this a lot. And so that's it. So you don't rate me on my drawing skills in the reviews, please. I won't get very high marks, but I hope you get kind of the point of this is what virtual backgrounds do, right? Okay, good, because it's like, well, gosh, what is this whole virtual background thing Bob's talking about? So any questions about what we're going to be talking about and trying to make happen today? We're going to make magic happen, hopefully, cross our fingers, okay? All right. So let's take a look at some slides first to explain some things, okay? So this thing called Zoom virtual background requirements. I didn't make this up, honestly, but it is made up by Zoom. Zoom says in order for you to use virtual backgrounds on your computer, you need a certain power in your processor, in your CPU. So they make up a web page. You're going to get a link to this web page in the notes. And this tells you what are Zoom virtual background requirements. I'm going to make this a little bigger so it's easier to read. And let me make it a little wider so we can all see what's here too. So what's going on here? They cover Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, which is iPhones and iPads, and Android. Zoom will work on many things, but virtual backgrounds will only work on these devices and these types of things. And then they separate it out, like image only without a physical green screen, image only with a physical green screen, video without a physical green screen, and video with a physical green screen. Well, an image is a still picture. It's a picture that you have somewhere on your computer that you would use in the virtual background, okay? And a video is a video. Teresa is using the video from, I'm sorry to pick on you, Teresa, but I hope you don't mind. She's using the virtual background beach video that comes standard with Zoom, okay? So when you download the Zoom app, if your computer is capable of running virtual backgrounds, they give you some still pictures and some videos, okay? What is this thing called a green screen? Well, just for you, I set up a green screen, okay? Nobody else gets to see it. Well, actually, I set it up for a lot of people. But what a green screen is a actual piece of green fabric. So I'm going to show you behind me that I have a green piece of fabric. This is really here. I can touch this. It's a green piece of fabric and it's a green screen I bought from probably from Amazon, and it hangs on a little hanger. And if you see this little box here, you can't see the box, but I do have a little box checked off. I'll show you on virtual background settings when we get there, that I have a green screen. You have to have a physical green screen. That's what that means. Okay. So when I have that physical green screen, I can change, I can pick a picture and it can work. So the reason is that there are a couple of steps in the computing capability of what you need. The first step is you need a computer fast enough support virtual backgrounds with an image. Okay, so that's the first step. And the next step is that you need a virtual, you can use virtual backgrounds with a green screen. And the next step is using it with video. So each of these steps has a little bit different requirement technically for the speed of your computer. So they break it out into 1, 2, 3, 4, and for Macs, 1, 2, 3, 4. And for iOS and Android, it's broken up a little bit too. The easiest way actually sometimes is just try it out. It works okay. And so that's good too. So what we do is we scroll through this list and we say Windows image without a physical green screen. Most people don't have a green screen, so this is what they would probably use, an image, which is a picture without a physical green screen. You do need to have Zoom on your desktop, and it tells you it'll work with Windows 7, 8, and 10, and it'll support these processors. So I recommend you look on your box or computer case and you'll find something that probably says the model number, and then just do a Google search for that model number and you'll probably find out whether or not you've got a processor. Virtual backgrounds does require a little more computing power. It's like driving a car up a hill. It'll go pretty fast on a straightaway on its own, but as soon as you start going up that hill, it slows down. And so virtual backgrounds it needs a little bit more horsepower in your computer to work. And so let's go to Mac OS, image only without a physical green screen. Pretty much any Mac that's about 4 or 5 years old or newer will work. And then we can go down to iOS, iPhone 8s and newers will work, iPad Pros, and iPads that are about 4 or 5 years old will typically work. And Android gets really complicated, and I apologize for this, but there's so many companies that make Android devices, and the simplest way to tell with Android is to just see if it works or not, to be honest with you. That's the simplest way. But if you're wondering and say, gee, my device says I should be able to do it, but it doesn't, then this is what you have. And it doesn't matter whether you have the free or the paid account with Zoom, okay? So I'm sorry to take you down a technical path so early on, but I just wanted you to be aware that if something's not working right, it might be because your computer or your phone or your tablet or your Android is not fast enough, okay? And we'll take a look at that. We'll figure this out. This is a screenshot from Amazon that I took of green screens that are available. I don't have any one that I recommend. I do, however, recommend that you buy one that's about at least 6 feet wide if you want to do it. Now, why would you want to buy a green screen? Well, let's say your computer doesn't do virtual backgrounds without a green screen, but with a green screen it will. Well, for a $15 piece of fabric, it's a pretty inexpensive upgrade rather than upgrading your computer just to use virtual background. So one of the students in one of the classes actually did that. She found virtual backgrounds working. She found a way to hang the green screen behind her when she was on Zoom, and it worked great for like $15. It's a really, really bright green. Some people asked if they can go to like Joann's to buy green fabric. You can, but it has to be really, really bright green. Okay, and the reason is that your camera is able to tell the difference between green. Okay, so when the camera is looking at the background here, if you have this green fabric behind you, it's able to separate the color green from everything else a lot easier. And if you ever saw any TV shows about TV shows or movie studios, you might have noticed that they have green screen. When weather forecasters are doing their weather forecast, they have a green screen behind them. And that's technically what works. And we get to use that on our own computers too. Okay, so I've covered a lot. Let me pause for some questions here, okay? And then we're going to show you how to actually do this, okay? So if you didn't, now you know what a green screen really is. Okay, so let me show you when you're in the Zoom app and you're not in a meeting, you can open up the app, and on your desktop, this is for desktops. We're going to talk about mobile devices because they work a little bit differently. On your desktop, when you're not in a meeting, you can open up the Zoom app. You can click on a settings gear that's usually in the upper right-hand corner. And then you can select backgrounds and filters from the settings. Then you would see this screen and you could click on one of the virtual backgrounds that you might see here, or click on the plus button to add something else. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is start a new meeting. When you're on your smartphone, your desktop, your tablet, and you're not in a meeting, you can open up the Zoom app and just click on new meeting. And you'll be the only one in it. And then you'll have access to all of the Zoom controls that you need to get to in order to use the virtual backgrounds. So that's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. I prefer that way myself. When you're in a desktop meeting, whether it's just you or like now, and there's the video camera icon in the lower left-hand corner for desktops, okay, for microphones, there's a little tiny arrow, and the arrow is so small, I wanted to take a picture of it and put it in a slide. That little arrow, when you click on it, opens up a menu, and one of those menu items is choose virtual background. And when you click on choose virtual background, it opens up a screen like this. And then you can click the plus button. You can select some virtual backgrounds they might make available to you. And you can click the plus button, go to add image, and then find any photograph on your computer, select it, and click open, and it'll make that picture the background for you. Now, some people have told me, and I haven't experienced it myself, but some people have told me that when they do this step here, it tells them right away their computer is not support virtual background. Zoom tells them. So that might happen. Okay. The other thing that happens sometimes is that you might only see none. You might not see any pictures. You can try clicking the plus button to see if you can add a picture, or you can try clicking the I have a green screen to see if that displays the pictures. Sometimes it helps also to go to the zoom.us website and just make sure you download the latest version of Zoom. Okay, because sometimes Zoom automatically updates on computers, but Sometimes it doesn't. I'm not sure why. So those are, and then once you have selected your picture, voila, that picture is now your virtual background. Okay. So a couple of things will make a difference in the quality of how well it looks. The amount of lighting you have facing you. I actually have three 100-watt lamps in front of me. I have a green screen behind me, but my image is pretty good, clear quality. If you have a window behind you, that makes things worse because the camera is trying to figure out, what's behind Bob or you in your case, and where is the person that I'm trying to put on camera. And so if the camera can make out more clearly who you are and separate you from the background, that makes it easier for it to work right. So let's then take a look at mobile. Okay, mobile is a little different. Some of you have iPads, I noticed when you checked in. Okay. And if you have an iPad or an iPhone or an Android phone, when you're in a meeting like now, you can tap on your screen on a phone and it'll show the Zoom controls on the bottom. And you want to look for the three dots with the word more. When you're on a tablet, you want to look for it in the upper right. You want to look for the three dots that say more. When you tap that more button, a menu pops up. And one of those menu items should say background. Now, if it doesn't say background, if you don't see that there, that's probably the likely situation that it's not there. Okay, that your device just isn't fast enough to be able to use virtual backgrounds, but not always. Okay, so there's, like say, download the latest version of the app, and that will help you out. Okay. All right. So there we go. Okay. So. Nancy, could you check and make sure we're all muted, okay? In case anybody did somebody have a question?
Yeah, sure, bro.
Okay, thank you. So I think my next slide is let's try it out, okay? Oops, okay. So let's try this out a little bit and see what we can do. My slide is not behaving well today for some reason, or I just clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so let's try virtual backgrounds out for real. I have to move some things around on my screen and try and hide some things from here so that we don't get disturbed by a lot of other stuff. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on my screen what we're going to look at. Okay. So let me share my entire screen. Okay. This is my desktop. And I have to show you the entire screen so you can see what's going on. All right, so now you're looking at my screen and you're looking at the gallery on my screen. Okay, so as I need to be able to show you my Zoom controls at the bottom. I'm going to focus on this area down here where my mouse is drawing a circle in the lower left of my Zoom window. And there's a tiny little icon, up arrow right next to the video camera in that corner. Let me clear my drawings and I go click on that. And one of the options that pops up is choose virtual background. And when I click on that, it brings up my screen. Okay. So when I see the screen like this, then I know that I'm able to either select a background that I've used before, or I'm able to select a photo from my virtual background photos here. So if I click on the plus button here, and then I click on add image, that will bring up my files on my computer, and I just have to find a photo that I might want to use. So here's one of a beach that I have, and I'm going to show you a place where you can download photos as well. And if I click on that, it changes my background to a beach. So these are some interesting tools now that I can use in my backgrounds that give me the ability to make adjustments in choosing ones. Any one that I've used before is available. I can just click on it. And if I want to delete one, I can just click on the X in the little upper right-hand corner, and that will give me the ability to delete it if I want to delete it. What I recommend you do is I have a folder that I've created called virtual backgrounds. And so I recommend you just create a folder on your computer, and any pictures you want to use for a virtual background, you just push in that photo, okay? It's a good place to do it. Okay, shall we do that one more time? Okay, so I'm going to go to my video camera. I'm going to find the little arrow that points up next to it. Click on that. Click on choose virtual background. Then click on the plus sign. Click add image and find a photo on my computer somewhere. And I click on it, click open, and it changes my virtual background, okay? And that's one way to be able to that's how you get to virtual backgrounds on your desktop. So it's just a matter of knowing where you put a photo and where you have that photo, okay? Any questions about that? Let's see if somebody's trying that out. We have a couple of people. Gail, is that your real porch? Gail Barnes Johnson?
No, that's virtual background.
All right, all right. And Carol, I see you're using the blur virtual background. Okay. And Teresa, and these are all options that you can use for your whatever you, and Deborah, you got a virtual background up as well. Okay, so see what the steps to do it are built into Zoom, so they're possible to really, utilize and take advantage of. It's just a matter of knowing the steps and understanding if there's a problem, why it might be a problem, why you might be blurred or something else like that. Okay, so let me pause for some questions. Let me that's a pretty bright beach. Let me change that a little bit, okay? And change it to a little more subtle virtual background, okay? Let's take a bookshelf. Everybody likes, bookshelves are kind of the standard thing, for newscasters. When you see them interviewing people on TV, they have a virtual background behind them. And sometimes it's their room and sometimes it's not, you just can't tell. So any questions so far on virtual backgrounds?
Yes.
Yes,
Why
I have a
is
question.
it waving?
I'm late signing in, and I want to know if you're going to repeat, will you be repeating this lecture again?
Well, Connie, this is offered quite often, and you can also request a recording at help@getsetup.io.
Okay, how do I request a recording?
Send an email to help@getsetup.io.
Okay.
And Martha, you had your hand up, okay?
Yes, as I told you at the beginning, it's wavy. When I click on, it's waving. My hair is waving. Everything is waving.
Right. It's you get what's called ghosting or hazy, and you're not really sharp and clear in your background, right? You aren't crisp. That it could be due to a couple of things. Okay, one could be the speed of your computer, okay? The other could be the amount of lighting you have in front of you compared to what's behind you. Sometimes just putting more lighting in front of you, because you want to light up your face so the camera can make out what's behind you and separate that from the picture a little bit easier. And sometimes it's the quality of the webcam. I use an accessory webcam that I have plugged into a USB connector on my computer. Even though I have an Apple Mac, they don't always give you the best quality webcams with an Apple Mac. So before you upgrade your computer, which is an expensive upgrade, try putting more lighting in front of you and see if that helps you. And then the next thing would be to see if you can maybe replace your webcam or get an accessory webcam. They're about $50. You don't have to get a real expensive one. And then I'd buy a webcam from somewhere where you can return it if you're not happy with it. And then if you aren't able to get it working, then you know it's probably the speed of your computer is what might be causing it.
Thank you.
Deborah, thank you for raising your hand.
Does the same procedure to get a photo work compared to putting in a video?
Yes, videos are tend to be bigger files. So sometimes if you have a large video, but Zoom doesn't like videos more than about 5 or 6 seconds long. So that if you have a short video, just selecting add video works pretty well. I mean, I added a video from I think I still have it in here. It's some trees waving. No, I made it disappear. But adding video with the plus button is the option, just add video and select a video file. But it has to be a short video is all. Zoom will let you know if your video file is too big to use as a virtual background.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
right. Okay, so let's take a look at, let me mute everyone. We're picking up some background sound here. So let's take care of that. And then I'm going to show you on a tablet how it works. Okay, so I have to grab my tablet here. And I'm going to share the screen from my tablet, and let's cross our fingers. Most things work, but sometimes they don't. Okay, so we're going to, okay, there is my tablet sharing now. Okay, so what I'm looking at is my tablet screen. You're seeing my screen on my iPad. And I can't point to it very well because it's my iPad. But if you look at the top, you'll see a button called Leave on the far left. And if you look to the right of that, you'll see Zoom. That's the meeting information. Then to the right of that, you see Join Audio, Start Video, Share, Stop Share, Participants, and More. Okay, that's the More button is the important. Those 3 dots are actually a button. And on iPhones and iPads and Androids, you tap that More button to get to additional features that are in our desktop window at the bottom. So when I tap More, I get some options that pop up. I get background and filters. So depending on your device, you might see virtual background, you might see background, you might just see filters. So I'm going to select filters. And then I get an image here that pops up. This is actually me on my iPad camera. And what happens in the right is that there's a panel that pops up that says background at the top, and there is a plus button plus all the previous background images I've used. If you are doing this for the first time on your phone or your tablet, you will have to click the plus button, and then your computer, your tablet or phone will ask you, do you want to give Zoom permission to access your photos? And you have to say yes, because Zoom needs permission to get the photos on your iPhone, iPad, or Android device in order to use a photo as a virtual background. So the mobile devices just have that extra step where you give them permission. Now, if I tap the plus button, it brings up my photos. So I was at UC Riverside recently. So if I wanted to use that photo as a background, I would tap it. It puts a check mark in it. And then I tap done, and it changes the background to that picture. So the picture has to be on your device in order to use it as a background picture, virtual background. When you're done, you tap the X in the upper right to the right of where it says background. If you tap that X, then you've got a new virtual background, but it's on my iPad, not on my desktop. So that if you want to use a virtual background on your iPad, on your iPhone, on your Android phone, in addition to your desktop, you have to set it up on each device separately, which is kind of confusing, but that's unfortunately the way Zoom makes it work, is that you don't have the ability to set it up across all your devices all at once. So if you're wondering, gee, I have my virtual background set up at my desktop, why isn't set up on my my tablet? And because you have to set it up on each device manually and do it that way. So whatever photos you can find. So May is saying something. It doesn't work on my MacBook. Can I sign in and join on this meeting using my phone? Yeah, you can join in the meeting. If you can join in, as long as you have the link to the meeting, you can join in the meeting, and we'll admit you to the meeting. So sometimes your computer, I always recommend you download the latest version of Zoom to make sure it works properly. And then I would recommend that you just try it out, see if it's going to work on your device. So some of you got virtual backgrounds working. It's just a fun thing to play with, because you can set it up. This is, Mother's Day is coming up, so why not have a Happy Mother's Day option for people too? Okay. All right. So as we're going through the meeting here, let me show you a website where you can get pictures for virtual backgrounds, right? So maybe you say, gee, I'd like to use other pictures. Obviously, if you took the picture yourself, that's great. But there are websites out there that make photos available for free to be able to use with virtual backgrounds too. So before I do that, any questions about virtual backgrounds and using them? Okay, let me go to a website. Let me share my web browser here and move something around. I'm moving things around on my screen so that I can get them set up to show you. There we go. Okay, so one of my favorite websites for finding pictures is this website called Pexels, P-E-X-E-L-S. And I'm going to just put it in chat. It'll be in the email as well. There we go. And so Pexels is what's called a stock photo library. And I do a class on finding free photos on the internet. There's lots of resources where you can find free photos. But let's say we wanted to find a photo for Mother's Day to use as a virtual background. I can click in the search box, and if I start typing in Mother's Day, it'll come up just like Google search does with some suggestions. I can just click on one, okay? And these are all photos that are available for me to consider using for Mother's Day. Now, one thing that is a little bit easier to do with Zoom virtual backgrounds is if you have one that's wider than it is tall, you can see some of these pictures are wide and some are tall. It generally works better to use this one as opposed to this one for Zoom virtual backgrounds because your video space is wider than it is tall. And so that's generally a good thing to do with your video background. And when you select a camera, when you select a picture, you can download it, okay? So when you end up selecting that image, then you can choose to download it. Now I'm going to share my whole screen with you again. Okay. Any questions about Pexels and how to use it? It's a great site. There's others out there, but they're one of the ones that are my favorite. Okay, so let me share my whole screen. And yeah, Deborah.
When you download it, will it go to your photo library or will it go directly into Zoom?
Well, it's going to download it to a place called the downloads photo, okay? Downloads folder. And that's why I put full screen on here. So in various computers, let's say you've got a Mac, for example, because some people have Macs. Macs usually have photos in the Photos app, but Zoom doesn't look for photos in the Photos app. Zoom looks for photos in folders. So if you have a Mac or you have maybe photos on Windows or a photo app, you might have to export the photo so it's in a folder that Zoom can use to find it. Okay, but your photos from Pexels are going to download. So what I want to do is share my whole screen. It's going to happen fast, but let's watch for it. What's going to happen, and I'm going to move this in front here so we can see it. Okay, what's going to happen is if I click on this picture here, one with the flowers, and I click on the download button, you're going to see a little icon that's going to throw that picture into my download folder. I'm going to click that. And it says, say thanks. Okay, so at this point, I don't need to, but I want to download that folder. Okay, and it downloaded it right away here into my downloads on my Chrome browser, but it's also in my download folder here. You can see my download folder, the photo, I downloaded it twice. It's here. So I like dragging it over to my desktop just because it's easier to view there. And then I can find it a little bit easier when I need to. So photos have to be in a file. It's just the photo file. So Zoom will look for that photo file. So I go to Video, choose Virtual Background, and I click the plus button, click on Add Image. This is Zoom telling me, here's all the pictures that I can get to. So if I know what folder the picture is in, I can get to it. And that's the trick to knowing where to find it, is to find it on Zoom. So if I click on this one, which is the photo I used, and I go to open, and it will change the virtual background to that photo. So I recommend you just, when you get a photo and you download it, drag it into your desktop or put it in a folder where you keep all of your background photos. And then they'll be available for you if you ever need to use them again. So that's the step for using a website like Pexels to download photos, okay? Any questions about that, getting photos? Now, there's a lot of places you can get photos. I just, use Pexels because they're free, they're legal, and you won't get into trouble with anybody if you use one of their photos, okay? And you don't have to have an account to use them, but they will keep track of them if you do. So videos are a little more resource intensive. They do require more computing power, but you can use them if you want to. So let me pause take a sip of water and see what kind of questions we have about virtual backgrounds here.
Can I ask a question? So when you're trying to do this virtual background, this is Mayho speaking.
Hi. Hi.
If you're trying to do this virtual background when you're not with Get Set Up and you try and launch the Zoom app, do you need to sign in and create an account?
Zoom will require that you have an account with Zoom in order to use virtual backgrounds. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I want to know. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and so we tried it without people without accounts, and they don't seem to be able to get it working. And so having a Zoom account, most of the time when you download the Zoom app and use it on your computer, Zoom will ask you to set up an account. So most people get it set up, but there's sometimes people use it without setting it up. And Maureen, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Will my chosen background that I'm using today automatically come up when I join a Zoom meeting?
There's a 99% chance it will. I don't know why, to be honest with you, but sometimes when I join a meeting, Zoom will not have my virtual background that I last used set up. I don't know why, okay, to be honest with you. It might have something to do with maybe I moved the photo around on my computer, because Zoom doesn't actually make a copy of the photo. It remembers where your photo was located on your computer. And so one thing I have done is I've deleted a photo that I used as a virtual background. I deleted it from my computer and it's no longer available. And so I know that happened. So I think it has to do with where the photo is, just making sure it knows where the photo is. And as long as it's in your virtual background selection, it should be the same one. So there's chances are it'll probably come up with the same one 99% of the time, but occasionally it has happened to me where it didn't. Okay, so that's why I recommend, the ones they give you, like you're using a standard Zoom virtual background photo now, that will be there in your Zoom settings all the time. But if you use your own photo, I recommend you create a folder on your computer somewhere and just call it Zoom background so you know where they are in case you need to get them back, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Carol, you have a question. Go ahead and unmute.
I noticed that you had a number of backgrounds on your, like the virtual, the background screen. How do you make sure that you can keep these backgrounds in that area?
Okay, let me share my screen again so I understand what the right thing that you're talking about, okay?
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Sure. So when you're talking about this window.
Yes, you see, yes, you have so many of them downloaded, virtual backgrounds. How do you make sure that it's going there on that page?
Whenever I add one, it seems to stay there. So this is one even from February, Valentine's Day.
Okay.
It's still there. Okay. And the Get Set Up one I installed that back in January and it's still there. So they will usually be there without you having to worry about them disappearing. But like I said, I deleted a photo on my computer and that background disappeared here in this window right here.
Right.
You deleted the photo on your computer, it'll be gone. Okay. But as long as you keep the photo on your computer, and you don't change it, you don't make any changes to it, it should be there.
Thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay. So you can see what's happening. Sometimes the quality of the virtual background really has a lot to do with the speed of your computer, the lighting that you use, and and whether or not you use a green screen. Sometimes a green screen makes it really good. For example, if you look at my glasses here, and I'm going to turn my glasses left, well, I'm going to turn my head left and right. But you see in the corner around my eye where the glasses, you can see through the lens to the background. In this, it looks like it's just what's behind me, okay? So if I go to my virtual background settings and I turn off the green screen feature, and you notice my lens kind of disappears when I turn it from side to side. Just a little subtle thing. It's generally pretty good. And so it generally works pretty effectively, okay? But the green screen does improve it. And because it's much easier to show you what a green screen looks like when I have it set up behind me, it's something I set up most of the time for Zoom. So it will help improve. It's a $20 piece of fabric, but it's the hangers and that you have to get for it or what's expensive. They can add up to $50, $60. So if you've got an easy way to hang it up, it works better. That'll help you out, okay? All right, let me find some slides to close some things out, and then we'll stay on for a few more questions, okay? Okay, so what we're looking at here is Zoom virtual backgrounds, and we've covered a lot of material, haven't we? Let me share a slide here. So we covered the system requirements for virtual backgrounds. In my Windows 10 settings class, I do show people how to find out what processor they have in their computer. I don't know if any of the Mac classes do that, but there's a similar way to do it on a Mac. We took a look at a couple of ways to change your background depending on whether you're using a desktop or a mobile device, and kind of explored getting web backgrounds from websites. I recommend if you're using Zoom a lot, there's a great Zoom for beginners if you're just starting out using it. Or some of the advanced Zoom classes. There's even Zoom for hosts that we do. It gets set up. I do some classes on virtual backgrounds, creating a custom virtual background. You can actually use slide software like PowerPoint and other slide software to create a slide and save that as a JPEG image on your computer. That's a little more advanced, but you can do that. And then using the Zoom whiteboard, so you can draw pretty pictures like I did on a whiteboard. I explained that too. But I do a lot of classes, a lot of Windows, PowerPoint. I'm going to be doing the Word class and some others as well. So you'll get an email with class notes that'll have links to the different photo sites. If you're interested in exploring other sites where you can get photos, when we do the finding free photos on the internet class, we cover that. Let us know from feedback if there's anything we can do. If you liked it, other people rely on feedback to sign up for classes, or if you think we can do something and you might want to recommend a class, put it in feedback. You can invite friends when you register for classes now on Zoom, and doing things with friends is always fun. And anytime you need to get something from Get Set Up, you can send an email to help@getsetup.io, request a session recording, suggest a new class, make comments. That email is monitored by our technical support team for any type of issue or question you might have. So I see we got some people using virtual backgrounds that didn't have them before, so that's good. Thank you, Nancy, for posting some of the class links in the chat session for people. And before we say goodbye. What kind of, can you all do something with virtual backgrounds now, maybe? Can give it a try? Okay. And do you at least understand it, even if you don't want to use it? I think that's a good question too. Okay. So don't be afraid to take the class again. You know, I mean, I didn't learn ballroom dancing in one lesson. It took me, you don't want to know how long it took me, but it took me a while. So anything new you're trying to learn does take time. Carol, you have a question. Go ahead and unmute.
You mentioned JPEG. You can insert JPEG. Can you use PDF files too to insert them?
No, the graphic files that Zoom will accept are JPEG and PNG. Okay, as far as if I recall from their requirements, they will not accept the PDF file.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for asking. Good question. Okay, anybody else have any questions before? This is my last class before dinner, so I'm going to go grab a bite to eat after this, but you're not keeping me. If you have a question, I want to make sure I get it, okay? Okay, anybody have anything else they want to add? Okay, well, great. Well, hey, thanks for coming, everybody, and join me for other classes. You know, that I do. I'd love to see some familiar faces, and I see some people that have joined me on classes before. So thanks a lot for joining and being a great group. You know, you helped make my Thursday afternoon a delight, and I hope I helped make yours a little bit better too. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.